Hi, let's just get rid of this bit chilly this morning in Dunedin. It was only 1 degree. Um, yes, I haven't been on for a while. I've had problems with my catheter. Um, it kept falling out, so every few days I'd have to phone the district nurse and get them to come round and put a new one in. About 3 weeks ago, I said to the nurse, "Can we go to a larger one?" And it's, "Oh no, they don't like putting in larger ones. You're on the." It's surprising that they put in a 16-inch when you left the hospital. Can't put in 18-inch. And then last couple of Wednesdays ago, I had a nurse who knows me really well, and she said, "Look, if this one falls out, we're going to have to go for the 18." And within a couple of days, it fell out. And I was lucky she was actually the nurse on call. And so she put in the 18 one, and touch wood, I've not had any problems. Now, I've got a Foley catheter, which goes in through the urethra. There are different types of catheters. Now, I'm not a doctor. I'm just going what I've read off the internet. So they're categorized by the purpose in which it is, how it's inserted. So the urinary catheter or the Foley are the indwelling ones, and they are designed to stay in the bladder for extended time, and they're secured by a balloon. So one time when my catheter fell out, the balloon was still inflated, and so that really hurt. And it felt like, when I knew it was coming out, it felt like blowing up a balloon and not being able to pop it. And then when it was coming out through the urethra, it was like going into labour pains. And then as soon as it came out that little bit, it was like, right, now I can relax. It's out. And all I've got to do is lie and wait for the nurse to turn up. Then there's the intermittent catheter, which is inserted into the bladder temporarily to drain it, then removed in often called a in-out catheter, or a Nelaton catheter. So the catheter's hooked up by pushing all these tubes into place. So, yeah, when you need to go to the toilet or anything, you can retrain your bladder with these intermittent ones by taking it out, sitting on the toilet, coming back, putting it in, putting the catheter back in, and to make sure it's drained properly. Then you've got the urethral, or the external catheter, which is a type of condom catheter for men, placed externally to collect the urine. So I figured that it must go over the penis to get the urine. That's what I can gather from that. Urethral catheter inserted through the urethra into the bladder. So that's what I must have. I don't know. And then you've got the suprapubic catheter, which is inserted through a surgical incision in the stomach directly into the bladder. So most people either have the urethra or the Foley, whichever, and the suprapubic catheter. Talking to my nieces, what am I talking about? Talking to my nurses, there's pros and cons with both of them. Both of them you can bypass. Bypass is when the urine doesn't go into the catheter but comes out through the urethra. And so when my catheter slips, I wee everywhere, simply put, you know. There was one time when the catheter had actually come out, but I didn't realise it. And every 2 seconds, I was weeing my chair, my bed, everything. And it wasn't until 2 days later, my husband helped me to go get into bed. And he goes, "What's this?" And he lifts it up, and the catheter was still was out, and the balloon was still inflated. And he says, "Did you not feel that?" And I said, "Well, no." And then we realised that must have been why I was bypassing, was because the catheter wasn't even in me. The key considerations when having a catheter: catheters are available in materials like latex, silicone, or other plastics. So if you're allergic to latex, you've got to make sure that you do not get a latex catheter. You need to let your medical person who's doing your catheter know that you cannot, that you're allergic to latex. Catheters are sized by the French unit with a colour-coded funnel for easy identification. Pass. And then if we go to the NHS website, I'm just clicking in here. Okay. Yeah, it talks about, and the NHS website is really good because you know that it's a true website. NHS is the National Health System in England or in the UK. So that it talks about the intermittent urinary catheter, which is where they're inserted several times a day, just long enough to drain your bladder. So that would be really good if you're starting to retrain your bladder to use the toilet again rather than being on the catheter. You should be taught how to insert the catheter yourself, and it's usually inserted in your bladder through the urethra. The sterile catheter is usually pre-lubricated to reduce the risk of any discomfort when you insert it. See, that would be no good for me because I'm big. There's no way I'd be able to reach it. I would have to get somebody to do it for me. On one end of the catheter is either left open-ended to allow drainage into the toilet or attached to a bag to collect the urine. The other end is guided through your urethra until it enters your bladder and urine starts to flow. When the flow of urine stops, the catheter can be removed. And the catheter has to be a new catheter each time. You'd certainly go through a lot of catheters, wouldn't you? I know I would, because I don't stop peeing. An indwelling urinary catheter, which, like I said, is the one I've got. It's left in place. It's held in the bladder by a water-filled balloon, which prevents it from falling out. These types of catheters are often known as Foley catheters. Right. Okay, so I understand that now. Where before the article I read said it was either a Foley or a indwelling catheter. But indwelling and Foley are exactly the same. That's why I was getting confused. Urine is drained through a tube connected to a collection bag, which can either be strapped to the inside of your leg or attached to a stand on the floor. The indwelling catheters are sometimes fitted with valve. The valve can be opened to allow urine to be drained into a toilet and closed to allow the bladder to fill with urine until drainage is convenient. Most indwelling catheters need to be changed at least every 3 months. So if I was a normal person, which I'm not, every 12 weeks they would change my catheter. So touch wood, I can now go to 12 weeks or 10 weeks. I am on water pills, and so I am constantly peeing. So you've got 2 bags. You've got a day bag, which is a smaller bag. You've got a night bag, which is a bigger bag, and it holds, I think, about 1.5 to 2 litres. And so through the day, I have to have both bags attached because in 2, maybe 3 hours, I can go through and have my night bag, the big bag, full. And if I didn't have it attached and nobody's home, I can't empty my day bag. And when the day bag gets full, it's got nowhere to go except up and back out by bypassing. It's like when you overflow a glass. Look, you can't put any more water in the glass, so it has to flow out. There's suprapubic catheters, and that is left in place, and it is inserted through a hole in your abdomen rather than urethra, and it's done under a general epidural or a local anesthetic. That would be up to the specialist. It's used when the urethra is damaged or blocked, or someone is unable to use an intermittent catheter. So if my urethra became so damaged because of tears through what's been happening over the last few weeks, then they would put in a I've got to keep looking at the word because it's a suprapubic catheter. And the only way they can tell that is if I have a CT scan on it. Maybe it may be secured to the side of your body and attached to a collection bag strapped to your leg. So it's just like having a day bag attached to your leg, and the pipe from the catheter goes down onto your leg. Well, into the back, not onto your leg, but into the back. Alternatively, oops, I've lost my track. Oh, where's it gone? Alternatively, a valve can be attached that opens to allow urine to be drained into a toilet. So it's, it works on the same basis as your indwelling one, but it's in a different position. That's all it is. And it's usually changed every 4 to 12 weeks. And it's possible to live a relatively normal life. I have had to change the way I live to a reasonably extent. Like when we go out, I have to make sure I've got a bucket, a night bag, and tissues. Because if we're out for more than 2 hours, my day bag is so full. And sometimes, like, we'll go out for lunch and sit in the car, have lunch, and we would have driven around town, gone and got some lunch. By the time we reach our destination, my day bag's full, so my husband gets down on his hands and knees. He's such a lovely man. And then he empties my day bag into either the night bag, or he'll just empty it into the bucket. Usually it goes into the night bag so we can bring it home. And then the night bag has got a little, it's like a little switchy thing that you push over to open it, and you push over the other way to close it. And then we'll sit and we'll have lunch. And just before we leave to come home, he has to empty my bag again. So we go through the old rigmarole again. So, yeah, I can't be away from my night bag or bucket for more than 2 hours. And really, that's the only difference. I do find, however, at night, it is brilliant because before I had the catheter, I was up every hour going to the toilet. And now I can sleep right through. Every 3-4 months, we get a whole pile of catheter equipment sent to us, and they're surgical gloves. They are clamps. They are the catheters. They're the day bags. They're the night bags. I can't think of what else. And the catheter bags, the day and the night bags, have to be changed weekly. So my husband does that every week. He gets the clamp, he clamps off the day bag, the connection between the day bag and the catheter line itself, clamps that off, takes out a catheter line for the day bag, and then he puts a new bag in and unclamps it. While he's clamped my day bag, I can't pee because there's nowhere for me to pee. So yeah, he can change my bags all within 5 minutes now. It used to take him about 15, 20 minutes. Now it's 5 minutes. He's got it all under control. You should empty the bag before it's completely full, around to 3/4 full. Valve should drain urine at regular intervals throughout the day to prevent urine building up in the bladder. Okay, ways to prevent infections is to wash the skin area where the catheter enters your body. So my nurse, when she changes my catheter line, she will get some solution, saline solution, on a soft cloth and wash right round that area before she puts a new one in. She will always put on surgical gloves, not the blue gloves. I've got to make sure I drink 4 of those a day, if not more. And because that water, I should have said, that is full of water. Nothing else, just water. And yes, it can be a bit boring. But if I don't drink water, I get a lot of sediment, which is clumpy, yellowy, yucky stuff caught in my lines. And if I get too much, it actually blocks my catheter. And that's not a nice feeling. So yeah, I just make sure I drink plenty of water. Avoid constipation. So staying hydrated will avoid that as well. And avoid having kinks or bends in the hoses. And don't sit on a rung, because that's what I used to do. I used to sit and it would bend and it would be like passing a rock through my bladder, and it is painful. So when I get onto my bed and I have to put my compression pumps on, I sit up and then get my husband to check the placement of the catheter, because yeah, otherwise it goes really, really sore. I didn't know this. It's safe for me to go swimming. So once I get my dressings off my left leg, I might take up water walking again. And we've got a pool out at Mosgiel where I could go with. They've got a ramp into the aqua jogging pool. So yeah, I might do that. Now, when to get medical advice, I have learnt if it doesn't feel right, you know your body. So if it doesn't feel right, phone the nurse. If they make excuses, if they try and tell you something else, be firm. I've given in to the nurses and it's worked out. I was right in the first place. So, contact your doctor if you're having continual bladder spasms. There's medications you can have. Now, I've got those medications. I'm not on them constantly because if you've got bipolar, which I've got, these medications can send you into having seizures. So I only take them if I'm having a spasm, which is very rare. Contact them if your catheter is blocked or urine is leaking around the edges. Your urine has blood or has specks of blood in it. Sometimes it's just a little clot. If it's a small clot, I just ignore it because I'll flush it out. If it's a bigger one and it lasts for a while, or it's a deep red, then I will contact my GP, my nurse. If you're passing bright red blood, contact the nurse as soon as possible. You have symptoms of UTI such as lower abdominal pain, high temperature, or you feel shivery. Your catheter falls out if you have indwelling and you've not been taught how to replace it. Hence why, every few days I was phoning the nurses. My catheter's fallen out. So let's see what the risks are, eh? The main risk of using a urinary catheter is that it can sometimes allow bacteria to enter your body, which you don't want, because if you get an infection and it turns to blood, you can get sepsis, and that's not nice. Or you can get a UTI, and that's painful. It's not nice. You can get a UTI if your catheter is left in place continuously. Other risks: bladder spasms, leakage, blood, and injury to the urethra, narrowing of the urethra, injury to the bladder, and bladder stones. So, yeah, I hope that has helped you, and I've learned something. I can go swimming with my catheter, and come to think of it, yeah, if you can have a shower with your bag on, well, why can't you go swimming with it on? Yeah, so I hope you've learned something, and hopefully it won't be so long before I come up to the next one. It took me a long time to do this one because my husband broke his arm about 5 weeks ago, and he's popped out to work for to have morning tea with his work. Give me a bit of peace. So hopefully he'll be back to work shortly. Okay then, thanks a lot. And if you've got any comments or questions or suggestions, please leave a comment so I can try and help out as much as possible from a personal point of view, not a medical point of view. Thanks. Bye.